What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Funnel Dad Secrets Radio. Today, I wanted to talk about what do you do if you have imposter syndrome? You know, when you're starting your business and you feel like you just don't have any credibility, how do you get over that? And how do you actually move forward and get people to start taking you seriously? Well, we're going to talk about that in today's episode. So let's get to it. Are you struggling to make any kind of money online? Are you overwhelmed with all the tech, social media, and email stuff? Are you starting to think that this online business thing is just not for you? Well, I know how you feel. For years, I struggled to make my first sale online, and after 6 years of failure, I finally started to have some success. My name is James Quilty, and throughout this podcast, I want to share the things that I'm learning as I work to build a six-figure online business, all from home and in my spare time. I know what it's like to struggle, and I want to share everything that I've learned to help new entrepreneurs make their first dollar online. Welcome to Funnel Dad Secrets Radio. So how do you get a reputation where people will take you seriously, right? I mean, have you ever felt in your business like, I shouldn't be putting something together. Why am I starting this? Or, I don't have the credibility to put a course together or to create a product or something like that. Have you ever felt like that? I remember this time. It was a while back. I had just moved. I've separated from the Air Force, and I had just moved to Florida. And I was with a friend of mine, and at that time, I was just kind of toying with the idea of entrepreneurship. I had just read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I was really excited, but I wasn't exactly sure where I should go. I had bought into the fact that no, I do not want to be working for 40 years in a 9-to-5 job. I want to have a little bit more flexibility when I have a family. And so entrepreneurship was the way to go. And I was like, I'm all in, right? And I was with a friend of mine, and she was working at a restaurant at the time, but she wanted to pursue something else. Right. And she had a really, I can't remember exactly what she wanted to pursue, but I mean, she had this huge passion, but she was scared. And she was like, I don't know what I should do. And I remember, saying to her, and I was like, well, you know what? It takes faith, and, it takes belief. And, sometimes we don't know what is ahead of us, but if we don't take that leap or that step, you'll never know, and you'll end up regretting. And she turned around and she looked at me and she says, and I'm not going to say exactly what she said, but, for our G listeners, she said, who the heck are you to tell me to step out in faith when you yourself aren't doing anything? You're holding on to a job and you're not doing anything. So why are you telling me to go off and do something that you yourself are not doing? What makes you to think that you're an expert? You're such a hypocrite, right? And at the time, I was like, you know what, dude, I don't need this. And I was really offended by that. But it wasn't until I started, thinking about what she had said that she was absolutely right. I was a hypocrite. I wasn't stepping out. I had no credibility, right? And I share that story with you because a lot of us, when we start our entrepreneurial, venture, when we start our business, we don't have any results, and yet we're trying to get somebody either to buy your own product, or you're selling somebody else's product, and you're trying to get them to purchase from you, right? And you haven't had any results. You kind of feel like what my friend was saying to me, like a hypocrite, right? So how do you build up a reputation? How do you get some street cred? And it wasn't until I read a book, Traffic Secrets, from Russell Brunson, where he talks about everybody needs to have their own show. You need to be publishing, if not daily, at least a couple times a week. And you need to do this consistently, right? And what do I mean by publishing? Well, if you're a writer, you should be blogging. If you like to speak like I am, you should podcast. If you like to get on video, you should be doing YouTube videos, right? And he said the reason why you publish is because that gives you your own platform. That is where you get your street cred. And when he said that, I sat back and I started thinking, I was like, what? It doesn't make any sense. And then he shared this story about Arsenio Hall. And I don't know if any of you know who Arsenio Hall was. Well, way back in the day, like in the 90s, he was the top... he had the top talk show at night, right? And everybody wanted to be on his show, right? And then, all people, that runs its course. And so that show was canceled, and, you never heard from him again. And then he showed up on Celebrity Apprentice, right? With a bunch of other celebrities. And one of the challenges they had to do was they had to raise like so much money for a cause or something like that, right? And so then they had to present like how much money that they raised. And he was the only one that got $0. He didn't get anybody to give to his charity, right? And they were asking me about it, say, what happened? How come you didn't get any? Did you not take this challenge seriously? And he said, no, I did. But he said, I picked up the phone and nobody took my call. He said, when I had my own show, I could get anybody to pick up the phone. But now that I, haven't been in the game, that I don't have my own platform or my own show, nobody wanted to speak with me. Does that make sense? So that is how, and that was when I realized the principle that Russell Brunson was talking about. Listen, it doesn't matter if nobody is listening. Just the fact that you have your own show and own platform, that gives you a certain amount of credibility, right? And I'll share this other story with you. So it was about a couple weeks ago, and I was in a Bible study, class, and I had been asked to teach the class for that Sunday, right? And so I was talking about the first Thanksgiving, and after the class, I have not only this podcast, but I also have one that I do. It's it talks about spiritual principles from Proverbs, right? And I was in class, and one of the people that listens to my podcast, he mentioned, he was like, you should listen to JC, because he has a podcast, and he gets some really good stuff. And the people in the class were like, what? He has a podcast? I didn't know that. You have a podcast? Really? And they came up and they started asking me questions and stuff like that, right? And before, I was just a normal person in class. But the moment that they heard that I had a podcast, it doesn't matter if anybody's listening to it or not. It doesn't matter. The fact that I had that, it gave me a level of credibility. And then all of a sudden, people started asking me like, "Oh, I got to listen to it. Where can I get your podcast? I have this question, or can you help me with this?" Right? Well, before, I was just like everybody else, in class. Does that make sense? And so, if you're kind of struggling in your business, one of the most important things that you could do is to start publishing. Get a platform and start getting on it and start sharing consistently, right? And like I said, before, if you like to write, blog. You don't need to do everything. You need to just pick one, right? I don't do a lot of video, but I do a lot of podcasting. And the reason for that is, one, it's a lot easier for me to get on and do this because of the lifestyle that I have and a lot of the responsibilities that I have. Number two, the people that I'm attracting and my target audience, a lot of them are people that they don't have the time to sit in front of a screen, right? Because they're busy professionals, but they can listen to something in their ear, right? And so I know that I can get their attention and they can consume my content, and it won't interfere with what they're already doing. Does that make sense? Right? So it's easier for me just to jump on, to talk, to record it, and then to put it up there, right? And so that's me. But now that I have a show and I have a platform, that gives me a level of credibility. So when I'm talking to customers, or if I'm around other people, or if I'm online or something, and I share that I have this platform, what do people do? Oh, really? They go and they check it out and they listen and like, whoa. And if they've noticed that I've done it consistently, again, that raises my status in their eyes, right? Now, I don't really pay attention a lot of times to the downloads and stuff like that. So I couldn't even tell you like how many downloads I have. It doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is that I have the show and I've been publishing and I've been doing it for quite some time. That's all that matters, right? That's all that matters. And I've had a consistent level of episodes on my platform. So when anybody checks it out, they're like, wow, okay, this guy's like for real. Okay, he's not just like playing around. He's not just, some guy that just read something from a book and, he's off, doing something, right? Does that make any sense? So if you feeling like you have imposter syndrome, you need to get a platform and you need to start publishing. And the second, or I should say like the third big reason on why you should have a platform, obviously, to raise that level of credibility, but how many times have you like got in front of the camera or you tried to do like a pitch, right? And to put up online? How many of you done that? I don't know about you, but I've tried to do that like when I first started, and it was really difficult, and I was like fumbling over my words, and I was like, one, and then I didn't know what to say, and I was like, and it was like really, like stressful, right? I had no experience. But now that I have my own platform, yes, I do, use it for, publishing. But the biggest reason why I use my podcasting platform is for me to practice. Literally, that is what I'm doing. Each and every time I do an episode, I'm practicing. I'm practicing my hooks. I'm practicing my storytelling. I'm practicing my presentation skills. Why am I doing that? Well, because the more that I practice, the better I'm going to get at that. The more that I do it, then the more comfortable I'll be when I do my video sales letters, when I do my ads, when I, do, shorts and reels and that sort of thing. I get better at it. Right? And so, and I'm going to be honest with you, when you first start, there's not going to be anybody that's listening. There's not going to be anybody that's reading. There's not going to be anybody that's watching. And that is a good thing, because when you first start out, you're going to suck, right? And I remember hearing this from one of my mentors that he said, you just need to get out there and you need to be okay with the fact that you're going to suck, and you're going to suck really bad. But the more that you do it, you're going to wake up and you're going to find out, hey, I don't suck as much today. And eventually you're going to get to the point where you suck you suck so little that you're actually really good. Does that make sense? And so it's good that nobody is listening when you first start out, or you're on video, or you're writing your blog, because you get the chance to practice and to make your mistakes, and you get to kind of be not very good without any of that criticism. Now I don't know about you, but there's a lot. Just the marketplace in general is really critical. And it's expected, right? There's always people that are out there that are always looking for chinks in people's armors and stuff like that. And I get that, right? But if you're out there and you're just beginning, having those people, even though you've never seen them, or you'll probably never even meet them, and they'll probably never even buy from you. They're just living in their basement, and they're just like angry. And so it's not just you; it just happened to be you at that day or whatever. They're gonna tear into you, and it's gonna totally destroy your confidence, right? But those are most of the time, those people are not your target market, and it doesn't really matter. But if you've been practicing and you've been working at it a lot, and you have those people, guess what? It's easier for you to brush it off your shoulder and to move on, instead of starting off and having those people start nitpicking at you, and then you end up stopping, and then your whole business just comes to a grinding halt. And I speak from experience. If I could share one more thing that I learned from Russell Brunson, and this rings in my head over and over again. He said, you want to be a success, stop stopping. You just need to keep moving forward and keep doing it. So if you have that level of you don't have that credibility yet, or you have that level of imposter syndrome, you don't feel like you have anything to share, you just need to start publishing. The next question is, and this is the same question that I had, I was like, okay, well, what do I talk about? Well, you know what? The one of the easiest things that you can do is share your journey. You may not have, made your first dollar online, but you can be sharing, look, this is what I'm doing in order to, have a successful business. These are the things that, I've tried, or these are the things I'm learning. And so you are taking on the role as a biographer, right? And you're just basically giving your biography of the things that you're doing, right? And then when you start having success, guess what? Then you're going to share that. And you're like, hey, if you are struggling or if you want to do XYZ, whatever result that you just did, then you can share that. Another really easy thing that you could do when you're publishing and you're first starting out and you don't have any results yet is you can share other people's stories. I don't know about you, but one of the best ways to promote any type of product, even though you haven't gotten any results, is case studies. And they don't even need to be your case study, right? When you're online, don't just be like everybody else in the world where they're just, scrolling mindlessly because they just want to, kind of escape. You want to be on there where you're looking for hooks, you're looking for information, you're looking for what other people are doing, right? To give you inspiration. And so I don't know about you, but I'm in a lot of Facebook groups and I'm in there for a reason. Not where I could be poaching and certainly not where I can start, getting customers. I'm in those groups for market research because I'm in specific groups that match my target market. And so I'm looking for questions that come up like, I never thought of that. That's what people are asking. Okay, well, maybe I can make a product that will answer that question, or I could do an episode, or, I can make like a quick lead magnet or something like that, right? And then there's always, people in those groups that are sharing their successes. I love that. I actually have a folder where I share those posts, right? And so now I have a slew of, or I should say a collection of case studies, and they're not mine. And again, you're not saying I can get you this result. All you're saying is hey, target market, are you struggling with XYZ? Well, I have this really, awesome, case study where so-and-so was able to do da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? If you would like to, get, the case study, then simply put your name and email, in your landing page that you put together. Does that make any sense? Really simple, really easy to build up your audience, to build your email list, and all you're doing is you're sharing stories. I mean, honestly, if you've listened to any marketer, what are they doing? They're sharing stories. And they're a lot of them are because they've been doing it for a while. They have a lot of their personal stories, but when they're first starting out, they're sharing other people's stories. I mean, have you ever had that friend? Whether you be in high school or college, or did you ever have that guy that just told really awesome stories, right? I don't know about you, but I had a few friends that were like that. And I mean, they were really super engaging and they were really funny. And what I noticed is that when I was with some of my friends, I would share those same stories that I heard from these people. And I wouldn't pass it off as my stories. I would say, hey, that reminds me, I heard the story from a friend of mine, so-and-so, and then I would go into the story. And you do the same thing online, right? You don't pass off these results as your own. You simply are the reporter and you're sharing it. I mean, if you look on the news, what are these newscasters doing? They're not sharing their personal results. They are finding stories of other people and they're presenting it to the public. That's all that they do every single day. You can take that principle and model it for your business. Does that make sense? And so that's what you could be doing on your platforms. And then again, as you are starting to make progress, you know what? Then you could share that as well. And eventually you're going to have your own results and then you'll start sharing that. And then you will start to, you'll start to graduate to different levels in your entrepreneurial journey. Does that make sense? That's all that I have for you today, and I really wanted to get that out there because I see so many people, and I myself, I struggle too. If you struggle with imposter syndrome, the most important thing that you can do is get a platform. Get your own platform that you could start publishing consistently because guess what? People are going to start looking, and if they and you're going to put that up on your social media profiles and stuff. I do that as well. And again, I don't do that because I'm trying to bring customers in. I do that because I know that when I'm in these groups and I share something or whatever, people always go back to check me out in my profile. And I want to show them what I'm doing, what I'm about, what I have done. Does that make sense? And that is where the results start to happen. This is not a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am type of strategy. Absolutely not. And if that's what you're looking for, then I could save you a whole lot of trouble and you can go find some other podcast to listen to because you're not going to find it here. This is a long-term strategy. Entrepreneurship is not a one-night one-night stand. It is a long-term commitment, and you have to be in it for the long haul. If you're coming into this, and this was some advice I was given to me a long time ago, and it was hard. I didn't want to swallow it, but it was very valuable. And that is this. If you're struggling for money, I'm here to tell you, if you don't have any results to speak of, you are not going to hit the lottery. You're not going to just, put up a sales funnel. You're not going to just, find some affiliate product to promote, and you're going to be making millions and millions of dollars. I know you may have heard stories like that, and those are outliers. But the fact of the matter is, the people that you see that have been successful and are successful have been in this for a long time, and they have been playing the game for a long time, which means that a lot of them had to get a job. They had to stay in that job in order to pay for their bills while they worked on their thing in the wee hours of their off time. Does that make sense? And I know that that's not a sexy thing, and I didn't want to hear that, but it was the truth. A lot of people that are struggling, you don't need to jump in here and this is like, I'm going all in. I mean, yes, you can go all in, but that doesn't mean to quit your job. You need to keep your job until you get to a point where your side hustle is actually making close to or at what you're currently making before you make that decision to jump off, right? And if you are struggling with money, and if you have like your landlord knocking down your door because you need to pay the rent, the last thing you need to do is like, I need to get this funnel, I need to sell this product. No. You need to get a job. Does that make sense? And I share that with you because I want to be honest with you. I've gone down that road and I've almost gotten kicked out a lot of times because I thought, like, I got to go all in, but I hadn't developed any skill. I was looking for a lottery ticket, and that is a surefire way of disaster, and I want to save you that. So anyway, this is, like I said, this is a long-term strategy. This is not a short-term. Yes, you got to be putting in the effort. Yes, you got to be doing this consistently. And then over time, you are going to start to see the results. But you got to put in the work. And if you want to get credibility, the fastest way to do that is to get your own platform. So I hope you got some value out of this. I thank you so much for listening. And as always, I'm going to talk to you in the next episode. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to me. Until next time, keep moving forward.